I was 9, running in the tall grass. I didn't see the 2x4 with a 3-inch nail until it went clean through my foot. So much blood. But this was 50 years ago. We fixed it with water and a hot tea towel. No stitches. Makes for a funny story, you know?
I'm excited. I love art that's in locations in publicly accessible spaces and places where you maybe wouldn't expect it. I love working with people and with the stories. It's like one of the main driving forces behind everything I make, and the chance to just get to know a place a little bit, get to know some of the stories that inhabit it and turn it into something, show them back to people is something I always enjoy. So yeah, no, I'm excited. Yeah, I mean the process is arguably the most important part of it. The sharing is great too, but the process of talking to people and seeing, like hearing what they have to say, figuring out how it fits together, coming up with a form that's interesting and kind of includes them and invites them in. Started that, I've been hanging around, loitering around the market, talking to strangers, which is I get licensed to do through this project. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. My hope for the project is to create something that maybe captures the multiplicity of stories that are in this space, that is true to it, and that's just enjoyable for anyone. So that's interesting for people who come seeking out the performance, and that it'd be interesting and valuable to people who just stumble across it by accident. But this place is not shrink wrapped, it's not identikit, it's not prefab, it's not exactly the same as anywhere else. It doesn't come in multi-packs. My idea, it revolves around a game, sort of based on how people always try to one-up each other with stories. So I've been gathering small little stories from the market, either from, not necessarily about the market, but from people who come there, and trying to group them under certain themes, and then I'll turn the stall into a comfy, cozy living room where people can come in and play a game with me about sharing stories and adding stories to those I've already gathered. And then once in a while, the living room will transform into a slick, by which I mean horribly cheesy game show set. A few things to remember before we start. One, this game is absolutely 100% totally rigged. And I will explain more about how it's rigged in a second. And two, the stakes for this game are unbelievably low. The market is kind of actively losing out to Tesco's and to other big identikit shops that kind of are encroaching on its territory and on its customer base. And that's one of the conversations I kept having over and over, was, you know, we love it here, like we've been here for decades, but it's all going away, and people kind of resigned to this. The only way to get those stories is to connect and to offer some of your own, and to kind of find a commonality between a group of very different people. What I mentioned before, which is this sense of kind of something inevitable lurking. That's definitely like been my experience in more ways than one, and currently, you know, as an immigrant in the current political context of Britain as well, I'm constantly confronted with something I feel like very helpless about. But that it's going to happen no matter what I do, and then you have to find a way to kind of keep living in spite of that feeling of helplessness. And I thought this is something very universal that can be tapped into. But I love that you're like, oh, I know, she's only kidding. And as then I was walking away, one of them turned around and was like, I ain't kidding. The Cardi is horrible. So what do we think? It's going well. It's fun to like have come up with this kind of weird game-like structure and to see it actually working. But people are very generous with the stories, and we run the kind of the small kind of intimate version that's just on some sofas, and then we run this, which is the game show version, and where we try to be loud and attract the attention of passers-by, which sometimes works quite well. And yeah, it's been fantastic, like hearing new stories and getting to add them to my stack of story cards, with some really touching. I think one of, because the participants share the stories and the audience judges which one fits the category best. I think my favourite one was this teenager sharing quite a poignant story about her mental health and being attacked because of it, and about invisible disabilities, and then getting a lot of support from the audience and a huge round of applause and feeling clearly empowered. And then after all of, and me saying, I'm not going to make a joke about this, it's important to share this, thank you for being vulnerable. And then after all this, her turning around to her mum, who was the other contestant, and going, beat this. which was fantastic. But so it's been going quite well. I think when I first started to work at Complete, I didn't even know I wanted to make a game. I just knew I wanted to immerse myself in the space and see what ideas come up. So there it was quite vague, and I kind of thought I would be doing what I'm supposed to do, which is writing poems and thinking of ways to perform them. And then I think the turning point was understanding that it's more interesting to get people to share stories rather than have just my voice, and coming up with a game as a framework for this. I think so that's been illuminating to see that it actually works, even though it's clearly a fake game, and I say it explicitly. Just having that script to help you share is helpful. And then I did write a poem, trying as hard as I can to actually be true to the spirit of what people have been telling me, the traders and so, and it seems to work reasonably well as a closing piece for this kind of wacky and kitschy game show, with suddenly getting a note of maybe reflection. And he hasn't brought a shopping list. It would be like trying to list all the teeth you plan to brush in the morning. Instead, he lets the smell rise up around him. Catalogue in its own right. It's got plantain, leather, new shoes, old books, perfume, fresh bread, all ingredients of incense for this sacrament, the everyday made holy, the ritual of the market. And the man in the navy blazer walks in and starts talking to a trader. Topics include the weather, the baggies game, the fact that the streets seem to contain fewer and fewer friends with every passing day.